I was basically, I grew up in an abusive family, so my mother was very verbally abusive. My father was very absent, and he would do whatever she'd ask him to do. So he was sort of her right, like he was the Goebbels to Hitler. No, that's a bit extreme. I'm sorry. No, but he wouldn't help me in the face of abuse. So as hard as it was for me to admit, he was being abusive as well. And my brother's just the same. So I grew up being teased for my stupidity, for being slow, for being weak, for whatever. I was constantly nagged at. I was constantly told how I should be and what I am not. So nothing has changed. Like, I've tried to work on my relationship with my parents, and they're still the same. They see me as that small little annoying undiagnosed ADHD child that I was back then. And they've never really fully accepted who I actually am. So to them, it is more important to keep the narrative of abuse going. So if they admit that I'm a real person with real feelings, then they have to admit that they've done something wrong. And to me, as a small child, it was completely, my parents used to fight physically, so they would punch each other. My mum used to scratch my dad's face. So as a young toddler, I witnessed this with horror. And I was told by my parents, I specifically asked them and said, like, why are you doing this? And like they said, well, every family fights like this is completely normal. And if you ask your friends, like, they all fight like this is how adults fight. Which, as an adult now, I've found out, like, no, that is not how you fight. Also, they put us into very serious and scary situations where, you know, we'd be in the back of the car and they'd threaten to go down a cliff. And I specifically said they, because both my mother and my father have put me, or not put me, like, driven the car towards an obstacle saying they're going to kill us all. So more than once. So both of them did this. So yes, if your father, like, I can understand that you snap and you threaten that, but I specifically remember the speeding up to the cliff or the tree. So I specifically remember screaming and pleading for my life as a very small child. The problem, like, I don't want to bitch and whine about my childhood. The thing that I want to say is, for me, this was normal life. So I looked up to my parents like they're gods. So if they told me this is how everybody fights, I believed them. And I then took this attitude into school with me. So I'm a very kind, empathetic, that's what I mean. So I'm not going to say I'm a kind person, I'm empathetic. So if I punch you and I see your pain, I am not going to be happy, I'm going to feel your pain. And I had to learn this the hard way, because I took my parents' style of fighting to school. And then, you know, sooner or later I did punch some kid, or I was a Karate Kid fan. So, like, I thought I could do karate by imitating the movie. Like, I'm 6 years old at this time, so give me a break. And, like, every time I then fought or punched someone, I felt terrible. So there's two occasions that I remember where I actually hit someone, let's say, not unprovoked, but like I just went like, oh yeah, I can do karate. Look at this. And then I'd punch them, and then I didn't know the response I would get. So they responded by crying. So I would cry because I felt really bad because I didn't realize what I just did. And this is how I learned. So I needed to learn that the way that my parents are dealing with life, the way they're arguing, the way they are solving their conflicts with violence, is not the way that I want to live my life. So slowly but gradually I just worked out for myself. I had to make my own rules, more or less, because if I was doing what everybody else was doing, if I was doing the same thing that everybody else in my family was doing, so belittling, talking down on people, punching people, like showing physical dominance, etc., this didn't make me happy. It made me feel worse. So it didn't make any sense for me. So I wouldn't do it. I tested it. I tried it. I didn't like it, and that was the way. So it took me an extremely long time to find out that this is not the normal way families work. So unfortunately, I met this man at the age of 19 that was exactly the same as my mother, which I didn't realize at the time. And he treated me exactly the same. So this abuse just extended further to my husband. So he would do exactly the same, make me feel small, belittle me. So in resume, I was looking at my life and going like, well, my mother says I'm useless, my brother says I'm useless, my dad says I'm useless, and my husband is telling me that I'm completely worth nothing. There was nothing given back to me in the relationship. And obviously to me it then seemed like it was me. It was my fault. I am useless. There's something wrong with me. And I was so entrapped by this abusive, let's say, I don't know, it's like a fortress. Like you're not really allowed to go outside and explore beyond the abusive relationships. You're stuck. You're sort of not a prisoner, but you're sort of held captive, so that you don't find out for yourself that actually you're not a worthless person. Actually, it's not worth belittling. Actually, this is not the way that people that love each other or say that they love each other treat each other. It took me 31 years basically. So it took me, when I finally went to my ex-husband and said like, this is not love. And I had to hope and guess and that there's something else out there that is actually love. I had no freaking idea, because all I'd experienced all my life was this control, belittling, condescension, and making me feel completely worthless and getting put down all the time and needing to make them happy all the time. So it was an ongoing struggle. So I was always trying to make them happy. And then eventually, after being together for 12 years, I went like, I give up. I'm sorry, I give up. I'm worthless, I'm useless, and I want to be worthless and useless by myself. Thank you very much. And I had no idea that all I've been living was a lie. There was never any love there. They never loved me. They just wanted to use me, and they're still doing it. And I just had to go like, okay, this doesn't feel right, and I had to trust my instincts. I had to trust that this, also my psychotherapist, my psychologist that told me like, no, this is not love. Like, real love is different. Real love is partnership. Real love is helping each other grow. Real love is something completely different than you've experienced for 31 years of your life. And I still didn't believe him. I didn't believe anything. I was just like, okay, let's go out there and let's see if we can find out. And the truth is, yes, it's completely different. So for me, it was completely normal. And this was the way that I perceived to be loved. It was control. It was, it wasn't. And then when I went out into the world, I was fortunate enough to make enough beautiful connections with beautiful people to understand what true love really is and what it really means. And they were trying to make me into something else. They were trying to fix me or make me better or worse or whatever. And the people that I met, that I loved afterwards, I loved them for who they are. They loved me for who I am, no matter how, what, when or how Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, as soon as you see the person for who they actually are, and see the beauty that each individual carries within themselves, like, and you can love free from any attachment, real unconditional love, even if it's just for a moment, even if it's only for a few months, even if it's only for the night. If I can give you all I can give, all the love that I feel, if I can somehow communicate this with you right now, then there's not much more that you can ask for. It's the nicest thing. So, and this is also, never be afraid of loving. Like, I'm sorry for giving you instructions. It's not supposed to be an instruction, but many people are afraid to love. Many people are afraid to, they think they're going to lose something of themselves if they love. For me, it's completely different. If I meet you and I know I'm only going to see you for a week, and I love you for who you are, I'm going to show you this love straight away, and without any borders, without any limitations. Like, I'm not saying that this is every single person on this earth, but it's pretty easy to love people for who they actually are. Yeah. It's a shame that this was not as easily accessible in my family, but there's nothing I can do. These are my blood relatives. Yeah, my mother did give birth to me, but other than that, there's not really much I can do to communicate with them without them being violent towards me. So I am sure that there's a lot of people that share similar stories where this dream dynamic of family, this dream of your mum always having time for you and listening to you and caring for you and bringing you soup when you're sick, and like I'm not going to doubt that doesn't exist. There's loving families out there, but for many of us, this does not exist. Most of us only have one parent, or like the perfect family picture is just an idea. And what I've done in my life is I've just changed the word family more or less. Like, it no longer means my blood relatives anymore. Now my family is chosen, so I will choose my friends as my family. So there's certain people that I will talk to way more openly than I ever did with my parents or my family. Like, they know me. They actually know who I am. And there's nothing hidden, no secrets, nothing. I will share whatever with them, and I feel very fortunate to be in this position to choose my family. And I know a lot of you probably, you can be more on the fact that your family is a bitch to you. You can cry about it, like, you can be upset about it. Yeah, but that doesn't help. Just get out there and find your own new family and find people that love you for who you are. I don't know you, but I'm sure you have many beautiful qualities, and sitting inside, get out there and try and get in touch with other people, and you'd be surprised to how much love you can get from, also how much we share in common with other people. There's so many good things that I can say about choosing your family. And you don't have to put up with your family if they're abusive to you. And it's as unpopular, as unconventional. I know very well what it's like to work on the relationship. I worked on my relationship with my mother all my life. I always tried to make her love me. From before I went to kindergarten, I remember knowing that she loved my brother way more than me. So it was a long stint, a long effort, and a horrendous failure. So an epic fall afterwards to realize oh my God, they just don't love you. They don't know you. My family doesn't even know who I am. So they have, there's nothing I can do about it, you know. I tried to explain myself. I tried to be friends with them. I tried to be open and honest and direct, but they have this idea of me that is unshakable, unfortunately. So, the most, I don't know, the biggest relief of the whole thing was that I assumed my family was a completely normal family, and this is normal behavior. I was the one that was doing wrong. I thought it was my fault. I thought I'm messing up, or everybody else gets on with their family. Why am I the only one that's hated by their mum? So finding out that it wasn't actually my fault after 31 years was such a relief. So for 31 years I thought there's something inherently wrong with me, and everybody was showing me that. And then after 31 years I went like, hang on, I think it's not actually me, I think it's actually all of you. And I thought this was a very brave, arrogant thing to say. Well, arrogant, I thought it was like, how can, if everybody's telling you you're shit, how can you say to everybody, actually I think you're the one that are shit? Like, I think you're the ones that are not doing life right. You don't really love me. So taking this step was sort of a big step for me. And then as soon as I took the step, I went like, oh my God, really? Like for 31 years I thought I was a problem. And now I work out that no, it's not me. I submitted to them. And as soon as I stood up for myself and I didn't submit to that bullshit anymore, then I was free. And like, well, this childhood nightmare of like, how am I gonna make my mum love me? As a child, I was seriously afraid that my mother was going to kill me. Like, she threatened to kill me multiple times. She used to say, I could wring your neck and I'd like to smother you in your sleep with your pillow and things like that. Like, I'm talking about kindergarten age, so I'm not too sure if she said the same thing to my brother, but I was like actually afraid that she's going to kill me. So if I messed up and made a mistake, to me the punishment was not necessarily house arrest, it was maybe she's going to kill me this time. So that's how afraid I was of my mum. Not anymore, because now she's a little old lady that I can scream at happily. And like, I could literally pick her up like a doll. So she's not very scary anymore. But when I was kindergarten age, I was literally afraid for my life, unfortunately. Which is not the most pleasant mother-daughter relationship you could have. But, you know, I'm just trying to talk about this because this is not a unique experience. Lots of us choose our own families. In Barcelona, I'm fortunate because I meet lots of people that have sort of similar stories, and they're sensitive, kind, genuine, lovely people, and there's no reason why they should have been shunned from their family. But I'm fortunate because I get to grow my chosen family more and more every day, yeah. So you can do the same. Like, if you don't have, you know, you don't need to get stuck on the fact that you have a terrible relationship with your parents. Like, I'm not going to discount the possibilities of working together with your family, with, I don't know, psychiatry, whatever, like where you, or mediators or whatever. I don't want to discount that. I'm just trying to talk to you in case you feel the same way. Don't worry, it doesn't matter. This life is your life. This life is for you to live. This life is for you to accept yourself for who you are. You don't need your parents' approval. You don't need to make your dad proud. This is all irrelevant. All you need to do is accept yourself for who you actually are and live your life to the fullest. And screw what everybody else thinks. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I know it'd be nice to have a family to fall back onto, And I know that a lot of people have good relationships with their families. And I don't want to in any way belittle that or dismiss that, because obviously I'd much rather have that. And all I was trying to do is trying to make my own family, like to make sure that I can prove to my mother that I'm gonna love my child as much as I possibly can and prove to my mother that it's possible to love your child with all your heart and not belittle and whatever she did to me. Anyway, if you're dealing with this and it's just a matter of accepting it, accepting your relationship. So if you've been living with this relationship for this long, you know what it is, and then you can just accept it for what it is, and accept that they don't love you, they don't see you, they have an idea of you, but they don't really know you. And if this is the case, then all you need to do is accept it. So in case you've been living with a family that doesn't really see you, doesn't really hear you, doesn't really want to listen to you, you feel unheard, you feel like you don't have any agency, like nobody even cares what you have to say, like it's not your fault, it's got nothing to do with you. And as the sooner you are able to fully accept that, the easier it is to move forward. So even if you have to see your mother or your father that hates you or constantly tells you how you are not making them proud or whatever, like if you have to deal with that, like as soon as you accept that this is the way they are treating you because that's the way they are, so you take the personal aspect out of it, so you don't take it personally anymore. And as soon as you don't take it personally anymore, or everything they say is rubbish anyway, so most of the things that they say to you has nothing to do with you anyway. So you can no longer be as insulted as hurt. If I go back to my room and go like, oh my God, not even my mother loves me, then I'd be depressed and I'd be miserable and I'd be sad. And now I'm going like, well, my mum doesn't love me, and I make a joke about it because that's the way that I'm dealing with it. I laugh about it. As soon as I can laugh about it, I'm fine. So in case you have a family that does not want to accept you, like does not want to, like, you know, there's so many reasons, religious reasons, sexuality, it's like there's so many weird, financially, that's probably the biggest reason why parents get rid of that, or like like have an issue with their children. What I wanted to say, like, as well, like, it doesn't make any difference. It's your life, it's for you to live. So if you're not making them proud, it doesn't matter. Accept that you're not making them proud and do whatever you want to do. It's your life. It's your life for living. Yes, they gave birth to you. Yes, they made you happen. Yes, you can be grateful for that. But anything beyond, they do not own your life. They do not control your life. They do not have any agency over your life. You're the one that has agency over your life. So these family limitations are like serious boundaries that we have to face. One of the things that I want, like, it bothered me that I didn't specifically mention that my parents were both physically abusive as well. Not on a regular basis, not all the time. However, I do remember situations where I got smacked. And like, I know that a few of the knockouts that I suffered as a child were by the hands of my mother. So like, I didn't even know what it was. I thought it was, oh, when everything goes black. So that's how I described my first knockouts. And I specifically remember my mother once like just throwing me across the room, and then I was like, I remember waking up passed out alone with the bleeding lips. Like she wasn't extremely physically violent. She always held back the violence. So like you could always see it coming, and we feared it coming, but she knew that if I have any signs of visual beatings, then she's losing her control over us, because then I can actually report her, which I didn't know at the time. But like obviously I could have reported her for child abuse. I mean, if your mother picks you up and throws you across the room, that's abusive. So interestingly, I omitted that. So I didn't say that I was physically abused as well. My father also smacked me every now and then, not a lot, but it happened. I'm bringing it up not because I think it's important that my parents smacked me, but I think it's important that I still sort of kept the secret. And that's what pisses me off. So the whole idea of these videos is that I'm trying to be the voice of the abused. So I'm trying to say like, so I've been hiding this all my life. Now it's time to talk about it. So I had the chance to talk about how my parents were with me, and I still kept a little bit of a secret of how bad it actually was. And that it really bothered me when I listened to the video, so I needed to make sure that that's clarified for some reason. This is the whole point of this is to voice the abuse. Abusers make you hold the secret. So my mum is assured that she never abused me because in her mind it never happened. But if I speak about it, I know that she knows. So it's like keeping the secret of the abuser. That's the issue that I have. That's also the reason why I started writing the book. And it's just voicing of abuse. That's all. So I know that a lot of people are being abused. So I may as well voice what happened to me so that other people can relate. And just make sure you don't worry too much. Family is like a big thing in our society. It's a big thing in our narrative. That's because our sick society profits massively from families. And it's just an idea. Monogamy is an idea. Family ideologies are ideas. So every family has their own ideas of how you are doing wrong. So it's just an idea. So if you can't deal with your family or they're being violent towards you, find your own family. And life is for living, not for thinking about how am I going to make my mum proud. In the end, that's not what you would want for your child anyway. You want your child to live hard and live, really find themselves and really get out there and get out of the comfort zone and just have fun with life. So, don't let yourself get weighed down by your family ties. And as soon as you accept it, and you can move on and you can move forward. And the more you speak about it, the more you don't necessarily need to go to a professional. You can talk to your friends about it. You can talk to anybody about, talk to your friends about it just the same. You don't need professional help. I'm a poor person as well, so I would not go to a psychiatrist to pay for it. And my mum actually never even tried to do that with me because she obviously hates me, so there was no reason for her to ever try. And she wants me to submit to her, not recognize me for who I actually am. And that's fine. If she doesn't want to, it was hard for me when I was a teenager, it was hard for me as a child, but as soon as I got out of that dynamic and realized, there's a whole world of nice people out there, I realized, it's not that important really. So thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. One love.